In this video, I want to start, possibly finish the setup for actually transferring the items to our inventory. So currently when we click on, the items here, they get added, but never removed from here. So they're not getting decremented. So I want to fix that so that way, well, obviously, they get removed because currently they are just not. So we don't have access to the shopkeeper in our items. So we don't know, who the owner is or anything like that. So that's obviously going to be a problem. So the only thing we know is the item, the cost, which we need to work out later as well. But we don't know how to remove the item. So if we look at our inventory item, what we're doing currently is we call use item. Now let's say this is normal, not transferring the item. When we call use item, we eventually make our way down. So here's the server. We call use item again on the server, call use. Then we go through and we will decrement the item like so. What in the world is index? Oh yeah, that's what index is for. So that's how we're kind of handling that. We're just removing the item from the stack count. We want to do this exact same thing, but on the shopkeeper. So we need to have a way to figure out who owns the item that we're trying to use. So we already have this boolean here. We're passing in the item subclass, but that's all we're really passing in. So this is a little bit cheaper than passing in the entire structure. So what we could do is we could obviously pass in just another pointer directly to the use item function and handle it that way. Or we could just go ahead and pass in the full-on item data structure, which would obviously contain everything. Then the only thing we have to do is just make some minor changes, which isn't ultimately that big of a deal. But I think for the sake of this, it'll probably be the easier route just to take in or pass in the item owner instead. So inside the use item, we're going to pass in as the second parameter a pointer to the shop, or just a pointer to a actor. So a actor owning, well, let's just call it owner. Or no, owning actor. Something like that. We're going to do that as well to the server use item. And then we want to go and do the same thing to the .cpp to make those changes. Alrighty. Now we just want to pass that in as we call it. So we call that for server use item, and same thing for the shop item. We call it like so. So we're just passing it in through the parameters like we normally would. Alrighty. Now how do we pass in the owner? Well, when we call the open, let me find it, the open shop, we're just passing in an array of items. We can also go ahead and pass in the owning actor. In our case, we're just going to pass in the actual class because we're only going to have that. We don't feel like dealing, so we don't have to cast inside a blueprint or anything. So we're going to pass in class, a shopkeeper, and we're just going to pass in owning shop. So that's going to be our blueprint event. So let's go ahead and close down the editor. And we have to trigger that. So we're just going to pass in this as the first parameter for open shop. So that's going to pass in the owning shop to our open shop array. So that way we know which shop we are actually taking the items from. So that way we can make use of them later on and decrement from that specific shop. So that way we're not, dealing with some weird issue of potentially having a previous shop. So each item is going to be specific to that shop. So let's go ahead and compile and relaunch everything back up. Let's go to our shop inventory, go to the graph. Let's go here. We have add shop items. We have the add item function, which is on the item itself. And here we have the set in shop variable. Let's see, do we have? No, this is the inventory. So this is the inventory item. We cast it. Let's do a set owner as well. So we're going to do that. So inside add item, let's have another parameter. It's going to be of, let's just do, I don't know, a shop. We do shopkeeper, object reference, and let's do shop owner. Compile and save. And the reason I'm deciding to do it kind of this way is because we already have an is shop item. So if we have an is shop item, we have a shop owner. So we can perform that branch and run it this way instead. So we have this, let's just perform a branch. And if it's the shop owner, we set it in shop, obviously. And then we also want to set the shop owner. So let's go to set in shop, or let's do set shop info, I guess. That would be a better name. So we can do it in one place. So set shop info. So we set in shop, and we want to have another parameter here for the shop owner. So shop owner, or sorry, yeah, we'll do, wait, what am I calling it in here? Yeah, I'm calling it shop owner. So I'll keep the naming kind of the same. So shop owner. And again, it's going to be of the type shopkeeper. So let's add in another parameter. Let's call it the owner, or owning shop. Again, it's going to be of the type shop owner, or sorry, shopkeeper. I don't know why I keep getting that confused. So we go through and simply set that like so. Compile and save, and we are good. We're basically just going to be doing null pointer checks in C++. So we can get rid of this branch now because we don't have to worry about it. And instead, we plug in the shop item and the shop owner like so, and just continue on with the normal execution. So that way we're, well, obviously saving that information inside of set shop info. So let's go back to the event graph where we click on it, and here we have the owning actor. Let's instead change this up in the event to owning shop, something that makes a little more sense with the kind of the route I decided to go to. So because we're changing it from a actor, we can obviously go ahead and just do a shopkeeper. So I'm going to go ahead and forward declare this at the top of the class, like so. Remove that from open shop, go to our use item, change the class type to a shopkeeper. Let's give the name of shopkeeper, like that. Let's go change the name. Pretty much everywhere where we pasted in owning actor. And then we just have to do the type, which is a shopkeeper, like so. And that should take care of all of that. So we changed owning actor to a shopkeeper. So we can just plug it right in. So because I made that change, I want to go ahead and do a recompile just to, be safe. And I'll see you in a second. Alrighty, let's reopen everything back on it. Go back to our inventory item, go to the graph, event graph, and here we are. Let's grab our shop owner and plug it in. Alrighty, we have all that information. Now what I'm curious of is I want to go ahead and print it out. So I'm going to do a print string and print out the shop owner. So we should have, okay, we are not actually passing that in, so that's a good point. So when we call the, let's see, the add item to inventory. Wait, no, what are we doing? We fill the item. Where are we filling the item? We're adding shop item. Open shop. Owning shop. Where are we calling it open shop from? The shopkeeper. So we call owning shop. So that would be in our character. So this guy right here. We have the inventory, we have the add shop items. And add shop items, we want to pass in the shop owner as well. And that'll be it, I think. So it's going to be shopkeeper. Give it the name again of the shop. Let's just name it shop owner and plug it in. Let's go back to our character. Plug shop owner to shop owner, or shop owner to owning shop to shop owner. And let's see. All right, tells us it's the shopkeeper. Great. So now I press I and I click here and it says nothing because it is a null pointer. So that works out. So we know we are, where am I? Getting the right information here. So we can close that. And I believe we are ready to go to C++. So let's go to the shopkeeper. We can close down the food and all the item related stuff and go to the header. So I want to make a function for use. So we can actually override the use function because we are inheriting from the interface. So virtual void use, take in our character. You know, it's not really an big deal. I believe is in shop we were setting default to false, so we didn't have to pass it in. And create the implementation. So let's go to our character. Find our use function. Here we go. So the shopkeeper. So here's where we do that. And here we want to check if the shopkeeper is valid. So we run essentially this code on the shopkeeper instead. So we want to figure out a way to do that, as well as then eventually update the shopkeeper's inventory. So let's just copy all this, go to the shopkeeper, paste it in there, and where we have inventory items, we're just going to rename it to items. Oops. And we don't know the subclass of the item we're using either. So we need to kind of figure out what item we are using. So in that case, we are not going to override the use function because we need different information. So instead, let's remove the parameters and we are going to do, let's see, what would be an appropriate parameter? Just the subclass, I think. So the item subclass, that should really be all we need. Like so. And let's change the name from used to transferred item. Like that. I think that has 2 Fs. Oops. So we can call it transferred item, pass in the item subclass. It'll go through, find it, and remove it whenever it needs to from the items array. So let's go ahead and do a check. So if right here, we're going to do if shopkeeper. So if it is the shop, not the shopkeeper, we remove it from our own inventory. Otherwise, it means it's the shopkeeper, in which case we do shopkeeper, transferred item, and we pass in the item subclass. So that's great. Now we just don't have a way to remove the item from the inventory visually when this actually happens. So for now, I'm just going to print out a log temp, warning text, and I'm just going to do stack count %d, and we're going to do a for loop. So for f item data item and items, just so we can visually see it. So item dot stack count, and actually I want to do this after we remove it so we can see it. And with any luck, this will work on the server. So we're gonna have to do the exact same thing on the client as well. So we'll have to deal with that shortly. Anyhow, let's go ahead and close this down, relaunch, and recompile and see what happens. Alrighty, so we have an issue, and my guess is we have to include, yep, at the top of shopkeeper, we have to include our, what was it? Actors item.h. And that should probably take care of that. I didn't read through the errors very carefully, and yeah, so that was the issue. Alrighty, so let's load everything back on up. And check the logs. Hit play. Click it. 249, 248, 7, so on. So it is removing it from that array. And it was still printing out the string. Do I still have it set to print? What was printing then? Oh wait, no, I was printing out a different... Yeah, doesn't matter. Here, let's see. What was it printing out? Default is printing out the using item. Where were we printing that out at? Moved hunger. Maybe it was in... No. Item.cpp maybe? Yep, using item. There it is. Okay, so we're just calling it from there. That makes sense. I can just get rid of that. And with the removing hunger and the adding health, because those we obviously know work. All right, so we have the items actually being removed from the array and updating. However, also the set thing is replicated. So my guess is we're going to want to convert items to be an onRep. So when it changes, a event triggers, and that event will go through each character and have it update whatever it is they're viewing. So like when we use an item in our own inventory, for example, we go through, I think we're just firing this off. So let's do use item. We will use the item and we're going to go on the server, call onRep inventory items, which goes through an add item and update inventory widget. So we are, let's see, what is the first parameter? The item. Wait a minute. All right, we're altering the number of inventory items and then passing in our new inventory items essentially. So that's only if we have items. Otherwise, we have none. So we just go through. Okay, wait, no, we're passing in a specific, okay, we're passing in the last element that was added. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so essentially we're going to have to go through and do this in the onRep event for the shopkeeper. So my guess is because we know that the item is getting, or the array is getting updated, it would probably be a better route to where we currently go through. We add shop items, we clear the items. We're just going to go through and simply call this again. That, in my opinion, is probably going to be the simplest route for this setup. So that's going to be it for this video. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link for my Patreon in the description below, where I have a team deathmatch series just for Patrons, as well as you get early access to nearly all of my videos. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord server that's also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So I'll see you in the next video.